Hello, I'm Bobby Stebbins, Marketing Director at Waterloo Container. I was very happy to have Donnie ask me to prepare a presentation for Ohio Wines to address the common questions we get when we're working with startups and new customers. As a packaging provider with over 40 years of experience in the industry, Waterloo Container is happy to share our expertise with wineries of all sizes, and proud to say we've helped many of them grow and succeed over the years. Every day we get calls from small to large wineries thinking that they're ready to buy their packaging or they have unique packaging questions. This discussion usually leads back to wine packaging basics that you should consider before you pick up the phone. It will be very worthwhile for you to prepare in advance for your discussion with any packaging provider. Your final package is a combination of several key components that must all work together to achieve the look and function you want to put on the shelf. So today I will walk you through 10 questions you should be prepared to answer before you order any of your packaging. Primary packaging is the package that is directly against the product, or in this case, the container that will hold the wine. In the past, it went without saying that good wine was filled in glass bottles closed with corks. Today, we have to acknowledge that there are many new container and closure options available and on the horizon. Existing options like PET bottles, cans, boxes, they've been joined by things like wine pouches, bags, and other options designed to compete in a more sustainable, competitive environment. Since this presentation is designed to help newcomers and startups in the industry, we're going to focus on the most commonly used packaging for wine, which is a glass bottle. Several things you need to consider when choosing your bottle. After all, this bottle will be taking care of that hard-won wine until it is enjoyed by some lucky consumer. I am going to make no assumptions here and go ahead with a quick overview of the physical attributes of a wine bottle that you have to think about. Let's take a quick walk through the anatomy of a wine bottle. All glass bottles share some common design traits listed here. Let me briefly go through them to help make sure we're all on the same page when we have a discussion about wine bottles. First, the finish. On the top of the bottle, this is designed to fit a specific type of closure. And it is a separate part of the glass mold, and it can be changed in the factory. The arrow indicates where the finish is here. The mouth of the vessel is right down the middle, the opening through which the wine will be poured. The next part of the wine bottle is the neck, the top of the bottle between the shoulder and the finish. Followed by the shoulder. This is the part of the bottle between the neck and the body, and the shoulder shape can be used to distinguish between the various classic bottle shapes. The body of the wine bottle, or the largest portion, contains the majority of the contents. And the label panel is incorporated here. The body of a wine bottle can be straight or tapered. The punch shown here originally had some functional value to enhance bottle strength, improve pressure stability, and to collect sediment. But today they're mostly desired for their ability to change the perception of the wine on the shelf, as they make the bottle appear taller on the shelf, even though they all hold 750 ml. Consumers feel like they're getting more for their money with a bottle that looks taller on the shelf. It's basically a design element at this point. Next, we have the heel of the bottle, which is the lower part of the bottle where the body turns from vertical to horizontal. And also at the base of the bottle, we have knurling. This is a pattern engraved into the base plate of the bottle mold, and it helps distinguish among manufacturers, and it also helps the bottle move down the filling line. question to ask yourself is, what style of bottle do I want? There are several shapes of bottles in the market today, but we're going to focus on the classic Bordeaux, Burgundy, Hock, Sparkling, and show you what some specialty or custom bottles might look like. This is a Bordeaux bottle. A Bordeaux bottle has a pronounced shoulder at the bottom of the neck. It's sometimes referred to as a claret style. This bottle is the most widely used wine bottle shape today. You can see the shoulder here. Classic usages include Cab Sauves, Malbecs, Sauv Blanc. That's what we typically see in these bottles. The next bottle we're going to show you is a Burgundy bottle, and this has a less pronounced shoulder. You can see it slopes gently from the neck into the body of the bottle, and we see this a lot with Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, that type of wine. After that, we see a Hock bottle. This is usually a long, tall, and thin bottle with the neck even more gradually sloping into the bottle. There are California Hocks, which are a little bit shorter to fit California mandates, but these typically are used for Rieslings, Gewürztraminer, German-style wines. Another style of wine is a sparkling or champagne style, and they look similar to a Burgundy style with the sloping shoulder here, which is less defined, but these are typically a very heavy glass. You can see the heavy base here, and they have a deeper punt to architecturally help strengthen the bottle to contain the pressure. Champagne or sparkling style bottles should be pressure rated, and the usage is typically for sparkling or champagne style product. As I said before, there are a myriad of bottle style choices out there. Here we see like a port, an ice wine, and a dessert style bottle. All things to consider before you call your packaging provider. What type of wine will you be making? One of the first things we often hear from startups is, hey, I want my bottle to be different. I'm showing you some different style bottles here, some custom molds and some embossing on glass, but what you need to be mindful of is that all these differences can significantly add to the cost and the requirements of purchasing that type of bottle. They frequently require larger MOQ. Their production times are limited, therefore the cost goes up. Yes, these bottles will make you stand out on the shelf, but they're not right for everybody. Next question you need to ask yourself is, what size bottle do you want? Or what is your selling size? Is this going to be your bread and butter product, or is it a special project? What market are you selling to? And what price point do you want to focus on? You might even need to consider your yield to decide what size bottle to put your product into. I'm showing the 3 most common bottle sizes here. The next question for you is, how am I going to close the bottle? Bottles are specifically designed above the neck to work with a particular closure. The finish must match the closure that's used. Do you have the equipment to achieve the closure you want? Is tamper evidence a concern? Does your closure need to look or perform a certain way? The first closure option we'll look at is corks. Corks are the most commonly used closure in a glass wine bottle. They can be machine or hand inserted. And hand insertion is laborious, but it's often the most cost-effective way to get into winemaking and close your product. Here I'm showing you natural corks. This is an agglomerated cork with natural cork particulate pieced together to create a cost-efficient cork. And there are also natural punched corks, which is actually a whole cork punched out of the bark of the cork tree. And there's a combination of these two where they utilize discs at the top and bottom of an agglomerated cork. There are also synthetic or plant-based options. Remember that corks not only seal the bottle, but they allow for natural transfer of oxygen, which is often utilized to age or perfect wines. Screw caps come in a wide range of styles. Is tamper evidence a concern? Any roll-on pilfer-proof cap must be machine applied. These are the finishes of the bottles on a Stelvin cap or a roll-on pilfer-proof cap here. The classic skirted style that you frequently see does require machine application. There are some hand-applied screw cap options out there, like this Nova Twist shown here. And there are also continuous thread caps if you really just want to go for the easy hand-applied cap. Bar top finishes, shown here, are common on dessert or ice wine options. They are typically a cork, which can be synthetic or natural, inserted with glue or co-injected into a hand-removable cap. Options for the tops include wood or plastic knurled for easier gripping, or these can be smooth as well, depending on the look you're trying to achieve. Crown finishes are prevalent on many pressure-rated options. You may be familiar with these on beer bottles, but we see them in a lot of sparkling wine options now as well. They can be twist or pry off, and they have liners with capabilities like oxygen scavenging or pressure containment. Some bottle finishes can take more than one closure, such as a cork and a crown, or a crown and a swing top. Now that you've put this choice together with the wine bottle you chose, does the bottle you chose accept the closure that you want? Next up is what color bottle will you use? Are you going to follow the norms or be different? Color can be both functional and dark. Here you can see some of the most commonly used wine bottle colors. Antique green is very classically used for red wines. Champagne green for your sparklings and champagnes. Dead leaf green is frequently seen with white wines. Clear flint or extra flint is used with whites or rosés. And we can also see some amber bottles used with red wines or German-styled wines. As I said earlier, color can be functional, and it can protect the contents from UV rays in the sunlight and help prevent oxidation. Typically why we would see amber or antique green usage. Color can also help a product stand out on the shelf and provide a visual element or background which enhances your label. This is why people sometimes choose things like frost or black. It can reinforce your message or brand. These are all statement colors, not classically used, but we do have them in production. Next question, what type of labeling are you going to use? Most startups are going to use paper labels. They're typically hand applied, but there are more and more affordable automated options which use a spotting lug or an electric eye on the seam to apply the front and back labels. Sometimes we see multiple labels on a bottle, or die-cut labels for interest. And labels can come on individual stickers or rolls or decals, entailing a myriad of application methods. Other labeling options include sleeving, here shown full from neck to the base, or print directly on the glass, screen printing as shown here. This company chose to use one of each to create a set on the shelf for visual interest. A word of caution here, labels might be the most exciting part of your creation. This is your message board for your product, and it's a great place for you to reinforce your message and brand with colors, wording, and ideas, but don't get ahead of yourself. We don't want you to go from excited to disappointed. We get calls from startups who have a great looking label already designed, but it won't work with any of the packaging components they desire or can afford. Many bottles have a fixed raised label panel, and some just have recommended label panels, which are specified space between the shoulder and the heel. Unfortunately, we often encounter excited new wineries that create great looking labels, or they hire designers to create them, only to find out that they won't fit the label panel on the bottle. The size and shape of the label must work with the size and shape of the label panel on the bottle. Tapered bottles are great to look at, but they present a whole additional set of labeling challenges. Also, if you plan to sell it, you will need to have TTB approval of the label. My recommendation to you is to hold off on the label until your packaging decisions are made, or at least considered. Will you be using any accessories or accessorial packaging? Things like capsules, foils, tins, and wax. You can embellish to your heart's content with a vast array of accessories, overcaps, and customizations that will help your product in the market. These are products that won't affect the function or the seal or the tamper evidence, but they help you create your special brand look. One last question for you to ponder. Does the outer carton matter? Boxes are designed to hold the weight of the product while stacked, or to hold up to the rigors of shipping. They need to be functional for stacking, display, and shipping, and that's a lot of weight when these bottles are filled. They get moved, unpacked, filled, and repacked. It's a lot of handling. When you're thinking about your secondary packaging options, you need to ask yourself some questions about your outer carton. Will they be in the showroom? Will your product be sold in a store or displayed in the box? Do you want brand exposure with every aspect of transportation and display? The box you choose might be based on the answers to those questions. Here's a classic content or white modeled paper box. This is how the bottles come out of the factory. Or they sometimes come out in brown craft. But there are certainly a myriad of options that you can add to the cost and timeline of your box production by adding customizations like simple logos, flooded color, any kind of imagery that supports your brand. What else goes into my glass decision? Cost. Many factors go into the cost of the bottle, including the frequency of manufacture, the color of the glass, the cost of the ingredients, and the country of origin. Weight. The weight of the glass affects the transportation costs and the amount of materials used to create it. Weight is also a consideration in sustainability discussions, which is why so many classic styles are now being lightweighted, and packaging providers are offering many more lightweight versions of bottles to consumers. Mandates with regards to bottle weight have been enacted in Canada, California, and most recently New Jersey. Do you have time to wait for your bottles? You have to think about the availability. Do you want a style that is readily available? Glass productions are planned years or months in advance. If your planning ability is less than sophisticated, you may wish to choose a bottle style that is kept in stock at all times and produced frequently so that you will have it when you need it. Lastly, do you have a realistic budget in mind? Don't go down the road without knowing where you need to be. Have an idea of what a realistic selling point is and the cost for your project. Can you do what you want and still make the margins you require to operate? Realize that every component in a package is going to cost money. Services and convenience also cost money and should be considered when pricing a package. Are you willing to pack the bottles yourself, or would you prefer they be ready to fill upon arrival at your facility? What can you save in labor and time by paying up front for some of these conveniences? We all want to be the next big seller and to be different from our competitors. but can we achieve that realistically within our budget? Do your homework and see what price point you need to be at for each package component and examine your needs versus your wants. So now we've come full circle. I have given you 10 questions to ask yourself before you reach out to your packaging provider. You may not be ready to make all of the decisions without some more investigation, but at least now you know what you need to be thinking about. Hopefully, you feel ready to discuss your packaging needs and wants with a packaging professional.